Anyone want to do a squat?
No.
Let's see it. What was that? Welcome back to Leg Days, week number 5. Let's talk a little bit as we continue to reflect on Mark 12, 29 to 31. Let's talk about technology. Last night, a friend of mine messaged and said that he was quitting a major social media platform because he thinks it's having a negative influence on his life and in our world. This morning, I read my Bible with a number of other people, some of whom aren't even in Calgary, and I continue to find that meaningful as we work through a New Testament in the Year plan together. This week, I started a new show. And as many of you can relate, I felt that internal, psychological and almost physical pull to watch the next episode. There was one day where I just really wanted to watch, and so, Laura wasn't feeling well, and I just flipped on a show for my kids, and I escaped into the world of Amazon Prime. Is that good? I don't know, certainly too much of it, and I'm pretty sure the answer is no. And yet, as I was watching that show, it was interesting. It was presenting images, without diving into the narrative, it was presenting images of poverty. And what was interesting is as I was watching that show, I actually had quite a profound God moment, where God again stoked the fire in my heart to be part of doing something about caring for the least of these in our world. And that happened in the midst of Amazon Prime too. Louis C.K. has a famous comedy sketch. I can't remember which late night show he's being interviewed on, but he talks about texting and driving and why people do it. And basically his point, it's quite funny if you've never watched it, though a little bit crude. His point is that we use technology to avoid the great existential questions of life. And that's why people will text and drive, because they don't want to be alone with their own thoughts. There's a lot of insight there. And yet last night, our church launched Alpha, and we used technology, videos made in another part of the world, everybody in their homes, to gather to discuss the big questions of life. So let's think this week about technology. I want to make 3 statements, and then I'm going to leave you with 3 questions. I'm opening a can of worms. This is something we probably should talk about a lot more, and I think we will in the days ahead. But for the moment, let me just make 3 statements that I think set the stage for us to think about. How does technology relate to loving the Lord our God with all of our heart and our soul and our mind and our strength, and to loving our neighbor as ourselves? First statement is this, very simply: humans are called by God. This is the first page of the Bible. Humans are called by God to make and use technology in our work to rule the earth, to love God and to love our neighbors. So it is the human calling to take wood and to turn it into furniture, to take metals and develop them, to do research and science such that I can have a cell phone sitting on a tripod and I can use this little microphone. I'm going to make it scratch here. Do you see that? I'm using the stuff that God put on this earth, but it was part of our human calling to make and to use and to harness and to utilize technology for His glory, to carry out His calling for the human race. This week, Laura was in the hospital. Things are fine, enough. I won't dive into that, but things are fine. But anyways, I'm grateful that she could get a CT scan. I'm grateful that there's charting software that makes medical record keeping more effective, and that the stuff that was done at the hospital can be viewed by her doctor as he follows up with her. I'm grateful for technology. Technology isn't fundamentally bad, and that is the second point, really, is we need to be careful too when we talk about technology, not just that it's good or bad, but technology is a huge category. Recently we polled parents in the church and we asked them, what are some of the best things you've learned about parenting, some of the best resources? And there were some references to no technology dinners, it was called. And I know what they're talking about. They're talking about no cell phones and no TV and no tablets during dinner. Have this time of connection. But the interesting thing is you shouldn't call it a no technology dinner. Technology is this enormously huge category. There's no such thing for us. I doubt any of us have had a no technology dinner in the last year. Technology was used to make the food. The plates are technology. The forks are technology. The table is technology. The chairs are technology. Technology is everywhere. And so we need to be careful as Christians. We can talk about segments of technology. We can talk about social media. We can talk about, television and the entertainment industry and even specific facets within those things. But we need to be careful about making generic statements about technology. It's everywhere. So first statement was, God called us to make and to use technology for His purposes and His glory. Second statement is that technology is a big category and we need to think about it that way and be wary of oversimplistic statements about it. And the third statement is that technology generally isn't inherently good or bad, but it's generally very powerful. And while technology isn't bad, there is certainly such a thing as bad technology. And certainly there are good technologies that can be used for horrible, evil, satanic things. And so, I'm reminded, this wasn't part of my sort of script here, but in the Screwtape Letters, long before the boom of technology that's our norm now, Lewis writes about how Satan is quite content to distract us, to just get us out of a primary focus on love of God. It doesn't have to be something inherently evil. Sometimes just the distraction and the escapism with lots of our dominant, especially media technologies, can be quite dangerous, and yet on the other hand, they can be quite good. So I've tried to set the table a little bit. This is a big discussion. It's a big area of our lives. It's a big part of our culture that we need to think well about. And so I want you to think this week. Here's 3 questions as we continue to work through reflecting on Mark 12, 29 to 31. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with everything and love your neighbor as yourself. How does technology play into that? We're going to meditate on that this week. Here's a few questions. First, where is technology helping you love God and your neighbor? Think about that. Where is tech being used in your life, in our church, to help us love God and our neighbors? Second question, where is technology getting in the way of all of us or any of us loving the Lord our God with all our heart and soul and mind and strength and loving our neighbor as ourselves? Where is it distracting us and leading us to a sort of uselessness or an escapism? Where is it actually counterforming our hearts? A great quote I found this week is that Ronald Heifetz, a leadership author, he said, we have the technology to fix a heart, but not to change one. And yet the irony is, in some ways, I think he's actually wrong. There is technology abundantly available and readily used to malform our hearts from the way and the intention and the purpose of Jesus. Where is technology getting in the way in your life? If there's an elephant in the room of your life that's technology, name it this week. And again, we'll go through those leg days exercises. We're memorizing, we're meditating, we're going to confess, and we're going to commit to obedience. First question, where are you using it? And where is it, where is technology helping you? Second question, where is it getting in the way? And the third question, how can we start to use technology better to love God and our neighbor? We had a few weeks ago, some friends used a mobile order app to send us some food and drinks, or maybe actually they sent us a case of beer for a Zoom party that we were going to have together, and they live in another city. And they wanted to bless us. And so all of a sudden there was a knock on the door, and here was like, hey, you know, so-and-so sent you this, just sign your name. That was using technology. Our friends use technology to love us. How can we be doing that? That's it for this week. I pray that God leads us as we think about this huge area of our lives. 3, 2, 1, go! You look like a frog.